It's o'clock in Southern California and time for the Thursday night E-Star Roundtable for September 21st, 2017. This is Mike in 6HKH, your at control. This roundtable is held every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific or 0200 UTC on XRF 002 Alpha and a constellation of X reflectors, including XRF 310A, XRF 555 Alpha, XLX 212 Alpha, and on XLX 313, our new dual mode, it's Alpha, obviously, our new dual mode reflector. This is a technical net dedicated to D-Star and open digital systems. Obviously, we talk about more than just D-Star, but that's our roots, and we now talk about most everything digital. It is a group effort, of course, to join a discussion, start a topic, or ask a question. Just key up when I call for stations. Please remember to not quick key or tailgate. Also, all you have to do is quick key. No need to announce or carry on for a bit because I'll catch you on my screen and call you. If for some reason I miss you, just key up again. But we get to everyone, and I don't think I've missed too many stations that have quick keyed up. That's the best way to do it. But please, just pause before you do so that we don't have quick key doubles and tailgating going on. I'll not do that by leaving plenty of space, and I hope the participating stations will do the same. Now, we don't take formal check-ins or do a roll call to give us more time to talk ham radio. Now, the net control, as always, is online at roundtable.tech. Roundtable is all one word. .tech. Just put that in the address field of your favorite browser, and it will take you to the Thursday night D-Star Roundtable forum board, where you will find, amongst a whole bunch of interesting posts, a real-time chat feature called the Shout Box. I think everybody's pretty familiar with it. You can use that to contact me as well as to post relevant information to the topics being discussed, particularly URLs and DNSs. In fact, we ask the stations that offer a web address in conjunction with their presentation or a document they want us to look at to post that. You can create even a live link if you like, using the tools right above the text entry field. And we'll all take a look at it. So we keep the shout box. It's at the end of the net, gathered up and posted in the shout box history file, which is right above the general roundtable discussion folder. And of course, podcast listeners will get the shout box downloaded automatically. Nevertheless, go to roundtable.tech and join in on the fun and see what it is that people are posting and what we're talking about, because we do reference it quite a bit, and we will do that tonight as well. So we're going to move right to announcements to begin tonight's net. So looking for stations with announcements, please key up now.
WE5 KC8YQL.
I have WB5EKU and KC8YQL. First, we say hello to Don, WB5EKU. Thanks for jumping in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is HKH in the net. And hello, Bill. Good to see you on here. Not much of an announcement. I'm just trying out a couple of things, and I'm on a AMBE, the DVSI 3000 USB into a Windows tablet, one of the ones, the inexpensive ones from Micro Center, running Windows, and it looks like it's working pretty good. So for the cost of an inexpensive tablet and the cost of DVSI, Northwest Digital Thumb DV. You got not only D-Star, but DMR and, well, it doesn't do Fusion yet. He's working on Fusion. But, so a lot less expensive almost than the Chinese radios out there. But, hope I'm sounding okay. N6HKH, WB5EKU.
Well, we can copy you fine, Don. Your audio is not the crisp, clean one we're used to hearing. I'm assuming you're using the mic that is in that laptop or the Win tablet, and if so, it's just a little bit down, and I don't know how close you can go to those mics. But yeah, I'm telling you, plug in a Thumb DV into Win tablet and jumping on, or for that matter, plugging a dongle in if you like to go that route. That was quite popular. I haven't heard of a lot of stations doing that lately, but I'm glad you did and pointed it out. So back to you, Don. If anything further, WB5EKU, go ahead.
Okay, Mike. No, I'm actually using a headset. Actually, a cell phone headset. Plugging into the laptop. Into the tablet. Okay, I'll go into the Windows setup and bring up the microphone a little bit at some point. But I was really shocked that it worked and is working as well as it does. So it's just another way to show that D-Star is not dead, and it definitely is not dying. That's for sure. N6HKH, WB5EKU.
Okay, yeah, no, it ought to move the mic a little bit closer to the mouth. I mean, it's not that much of a difference. It's, I guess sometimes I get overly critical, but I copied you 100%, and I'm sure everybody else did as well. And, those headsets, you got to fiddle with them and get them in the right settings. So, now, who said D-Star is dead? I don't know who's circulating that nasty rumor. It's not dead. It's there with all the other digital modes, and as far as I'm concerned, still leads the charge, has the greatest number of reflectors, and it's got a tremendous infrastructure and history, and it's going to be a long time before it takes second fiddle to the others. But they're all each have their own positive things. I just happen, like you, I happen to love D-Star, and it's going to be a tough time to convince me otherwise. All right, thanks for being with us. Next, we say hello to Bill, KC8YQL. Thanks for keying up during announcements. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening, Mike, and on the net. It's strange because I just shut my Blue DV down. I was going to check in with you guys on the same configuration that Don's on there, and I loaded on. And I guess I got too much running. I run the Blue DV, DV thumb drive, of course, on it. I got a DV4 mini stick on it, and I'm running Echolink on it, and I'm running DMR on it. So sometimes I run too much stuff on there. And I got a pair of those tablets going, Don. In fact, I'm on the 7-inch tablet right now on the little Winbook, and I'm using good old Robin's DVAP access point dongle on the 7-inch one. The 8-inch one's got a stick on it over on the Fusion I'm testing with the North Carolina guys. They set up a link like the Alabama link guys, so we're over there testing with them. But anyway, good hearing you guys are still alive and well, and yeah, well, hey, D-Star ain't never going to die, right, Mike? It's going to always be here. And I had a treat earlier today. I had Ken Turner and one DOT looked me up on the X Reflector constellation reflectors. He was on X Reflector 38 Alpha, and he was running the Delta 74 HT, and boy, they sound good too. I like the vocoder, the way the vocoder sounds in the 74. They sound real close to the ICOM 5100s. They got good, clean, just real smooth, pleasant audio. Let me do a quick reset. I guess there's supposed to be announcements, so I better get with it. Otherwise, I'll get kicked off of here, right? Okay, announcements is I was really pleased to get a Zoom spot board from Jim Monday. And I was going to fire that thing right up right away, Mike, and program it up, get it on the air. And I got to thinking, you big dummy, Bill, you don't have an HDMI adapter. So I couldn't see it. So got an HDMI, what is it, a C is the full size? Is it an A? No, maybe the A is the full size. I think I got a C coming, an adapter to go from mini HDMI to regular. So can't wait to get the Zoom board up and going. And I think in the car, if powering it up, powering it down don't corrupt the SD card, I might just dedicate that for my mobile hotspot because I got all the digital radios in there now. And it'd be nice to be able to just key up and have that thing auto select, whatever digital mode you want to transmit on. It's ready to go. I guess the downside of that is, you can only do one digital mode at a time. So I'm liable to throw another open spot in the car and have it in there along with it too. That way we work a couple digital modes at the same time. We just got too many things to play with nowadays, right, Mike? Tell you what, if you're bored in amateur radio, it's got to be your own fault because I'm having a blast with everything we got to play with. Back to you, Mike. Thanks for letting me pop in here, and we'll be listening out here in the background. I might sneak away at 10:30 and check on the height here and that over on 31089, and give them a quick check in. But I'll be back. KC8YQL, back to now.
All right, Bill. Well, thanks for joining us. And yeah, look, you can never have enough toys. And if you see an HF operator that's got his head in his hands on his desk because of the Sunspot Cycle reports, or is snoozing because there's just nothing happening, and he needs to, get more gadgets going, or any of your gadget freak friends that love to push buttons, tell them, hey, you're missing out because digital, especially here in D-Star and DMR and the other digital modes, there's tons of toys and tons of stuff and lots of selections. You can buy one of everything, or you can spend time investigating it all. And each has its own advantages. We're going to be talking a little bit about later on tonight about hotspots and how to best put them to use, and more specifically, what you need to do to get on the 4K transcoding that we provide on XLX 313. So, by the way, Bill, KC8YQL, have you tried out that transcoding server on using one of your DMR jobs, KC8YQL and 6HKH? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, actually, hang on here. Let me do a reset. My DOS screen was scrolling there a little on me. I didn't know if the packets got lost at the header packet there at the beginning. Hopefully you're hearing me okay. Looks like it still did it again. Let me do another quick reset. Sorry. Maybe it's time to throw this 7-inch tablet over there to Don's house. Don, you want another 7-inch tablet? Anyway, we was running off of a private cloud server, Mike, when I first got the open spot about a year and, 3 or 4 months ago. So we was running off of a Amazon cloud server. We called it the closed spot. Instead of the open spot, we was on the closed spot. And at that time, I was had the privilege, really privileged big time, of talking to Dewey. Boy, I'm going to get in trouble. I don't remember Dewey's call. Anyway, he wrote the Fusion Bible. Very techie person. And we was really looking forward to everything Dewey was going to do. He was going to really do some neat stuff. And doggone, he went in the hospital and he never got to come home. We lost him. So yeah, we done all the transcoding, and and done all that fun kind of stuff a little over a year ago. Probably a year and I guess it's probably a year and 4 months ago. Well, my open spot was the very first hardware version 2 that Norbert put out. 1.1 was out, beta release, and the very first batch of 1.1 hardwares is the one that I got. I got the very first batch he sent out. So that's been, I guess, a year and a couple, 3 or 4 months ago. I guess I'd have to go back and look at my receipt on that. But a lot of neat stuff's going on. You know, you can put an IP address and a password in there, and you can do that with those. I'm pretty sure you guys probably talked about that. You can pull it off the network and actually go on a private server and just all kinds of cool stuff you can do. Back to you, Mike, TC8YQL.
All right, Bill. Well, hopefully you'll try out the 4K transcoding that we provide here on XLX 313, and that's because of your history with transcoding. I thought I'd see if you'd tried it out and what you thought. And since that is something you haven't, you're going to have to. And let us know how that happened. Oh, that's right. Inland DOT last week said he's ordered a new Kenwood D74, and well, if you heard him on it, I guess it's working fine for him, but maybe we'll get a report on that. All right, any stations with announcements for the roundtable, please key up.
N7TAE.
N7TAE, thanks for being with us. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike. Good evening, everybody on the net. Just wanted to let you guys know that the QuadNet team is recruiting a webmaster. We need a webmaster. We're looking for somebody who's got webmaster skills for Unix systems, where web runs from a Unix box, and we have some big plans coming up, and we need some help to get the word out on the web page, and we're looking for a webmaster. So if you're interested, email admins@quadnet.net. I'll put that, but just wanted to let you guys know we're looking for a webmaster. Back to you, Mike. This is N7TAE.
Well, you put the word out. Of course, posting on the shop box would assure you of getting the word spread. But which website is it? Is it an existing one, or you are you asking someone to build one from the beginning, or take over a dilapidated one that needs to be upgraded? And I don't mean that unkindly. N7TAE, back to you.
Yeah, we're looking for somebody to take over the quadnet.net website, www.quadnet.net, and we have some plans to expand that. It needs a little cleaning up. There's information kind of spread out all over the place, and somebody needs to take a look at it and get it all squared away. And so that's what's going on, and I'll shout it out. Back to you, N7TAE.
All righty. Well, hopefully someone will step up and volunteer. I mean, the QuadNet website is, I think that's an important one and worth somebody's time. It's not like you're asking them to put together a website for, appropriate amateur radio clothing or something like that. All right, Tom, thanks. Other stations with announcements, please key up.
AA0R.
AA0RX. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, the net and everybody here. So I've got a friend of mine, Steve Fortune, out in California, and now he's in Idaho. So he picked up this ICOM U82 old radio, and he's expecting me to get him all tuned up on D-Star, so he's up in Idaho way. And anyway, I guess I got an X reflector that's hooked up over there, or REF reflector 30 Charlie, I think, is permanently linked to that Idaho and there. So anyway, long story short, he wants me to get him all tuned up on old U82. I've never seen a radio like that. And I recommend get a Raspberry Pi with a DV Mega or DVAP or something, and just use a gateway system there to link in. And he is so cheap, he will not buy the Pi, even a $9 Raspberry Pi or the DVAP or any of that stuff. So he's trying to get on D-Star, but he won't spend 1 cent to get on there. What a dichotomy to try to get him on. So anyway, looking to try to get him on D-Star, but he selected the most difficult way to go, and it's kind of fun elmering him because yeah, I guess it'll teach me. So if anybody has any answers for how to help somebody use a old school radio on D-Star, I'd love to know about that. AA0RX 73.
Well, I mean, the U82, that's I think it's an IC-U82, and as long as it's got that optional board popped in it, the UT118, I think, you're on D-Star, so you'd have to have the that optional board there, I'm pretty sure. And also, I think on that radio you had to also purchase an optional DTMF decoder unit, but I haven't looked at it in quite a while. Well, if anyone has any suggestions, they know how to get you A0RX, and unless you're using a bad or an outdated email address in your QRZ posting or listing, they can get a hold of you there. All right, Gary, thanks for that. Before we get too far afield of the announcements, a couple were brought to my attention. First of all, is Pacificon 2017 is coming up October 20, 21, 22, 2017, and that's the ARRL Pacific Division, and in conjunction with the Mount Diablo Amateur Radio Club. And so they present the what is called Pacificon, which is in San Ramon. It's a heavily attended event. It's a pretty big one, and that's coming up, so make your plans. And the ARRL website has already information posted about it. I don't know if the Pacificon website itself is up. I tried to find that link, and it seemed to be down, but perhaps they're working on their website. Somebody's working on the website, but hey, look at this. You can already order Pacificon t-shirts and get in the swing of things early. So that is one announcement. Also, we don't want to forget about the D-Star QSO party, ICOMS, the D-Star QSO party that begins on September 22nd at 0000 UTC, which frankly is now for some people, but because it's Friday there, but for the rest of us, we're all right. I think that came and went, so we should be good to go. Anyway, so that runs Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and beginning Friday 000 UTC, ending Sunday 2400 UTC, and ICOM has got clicks, banners, and other clickbait everywhere, so it shouldn't be a problem finding it and learning the rules. It seems to be popular. Of course, in my view, there ought to be something for D-Star QSO party for the competition using Kenwood and any other device or radio that connects to D-Star or operates in the D-Star mode. But this one is ICOMS, and it's always fun, I guess, if you're into that, and we'll see who wins. Hopefully somebody we know here that participates in the roundtable will win. Any other announcements before we move on? Please, Kia.
KC8YQ.
KC8YQL. Full of announcements tonight. Well, that's a good thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, I was going to mention this earlier, but I didn't want to make myself sound bad. I told you guys I just got Jim's Zoom spot board here Monday, right? Well, I think it was Thursday or Friday. I paid for it. And then, of course, I got it Monday. But Saturday, Jim pulled a rabbit out of his hat again. And, well, not a rabbit out of his hat. How about a device that looks like a DV4 Mini out of his pocket? Some of you guys may have seen him, maybe you did not see him. I don't know. In fact, they're supposed to archive the video, and I don't know if the video is up so I can see it yet or not. Anyway, he introduced a USB-style Zoom board. So here we go. I got this one Monday, and it's outdated already with a brand new one. Back to you, Mike. Don't know a whole lot about it, but I'm assuming it'll do everything this one does in a whole lot smaller package. KC8YQL is back to you, sir.
Okay, well, I thought you said it was a new DV4 Mini. Did I miss something? Is this like a new or later model or version of that device? Is that what Jim allegedly pulled out of his pocket? Or did I not understand what you were saying? KC8YQL, go ahead.
Yep, that's correct. For all intents and purposes, it looks just like a DV4 Mini, but you can see the chipset configuration is different. So Jim's got a condensed version of, I presume it's like the Zoom spot board that we got that we're going to piggyback on. Well, I got a Pi Zero to put this one on. And as soon as I get the pins soldered onto it, or, of course, you know, you can mount it on a full-size Raspberry Pi 2 or 3 board. I guess even a 1 board if they still make them. But at any rate, yeah, it looks just like a DV4 Mini stick. I'll send you a picture. KC8YQL. Back to you.
All right, Bill. Yeah, I look forward to seeing it. Appreciate it. All right. Any other announcements? Let's take it. Please, Keith.
KE0AY.
And we say hello to Andy. KE0AYJ. Go ahead.
Thanks, KH, and group. Good evening, everybody. Hope everything's going well. You mentioned the D-Star QSO party for prizes and things like that. If you're talking reflectors, I believe I read, I'm not sure correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're talking through reflectors instead of repeaters and you're using a dongle or a DVAP, I hear you're not eligible for the prizes, but you are eligible to go into with the points and stuff like that. So somebody else could probably chime in and see if I'm wrong or have a cloud going on.
Well, actually, I investigated that and put some inquiries out and learned from a confidential source that's highly placed who would know what the rules are regarding the D-Star QSO party that you can use reflectors, but they want you to identify the reflector and the radio that was used to at least transmit. Now that, in theory, removes dongles from consideration, but as far as any other hotspot that involves a transmission, they will count as points for prizes, reflectors, and I will find for you the exact information that you need to complete in your form. It's going to take me a few minutes to find it, but I will find it concerning logging of reflectors. But while it's not specified in the rules, and while openly it's not admitted that that's okay, they will accept reflector contact. And I will get that rule pulled up here when I have a moment. Or that additional information that is specifically how to log them in. I thought it got posted, but I can't find it in the Roundtable shop box or the Roundtable forum board, and that's my fault. All right, let's see if there's anyone else on announcements. Please, Skip. All right, nothing seen or heard. So on the shop box post, we like to take a look at them if there's anything of interest that or something that needs further discussion. And one of them concerns the appropriate frequency for operating your hotspot. And there was a discussion that took place on the Constellation concerning how do I go about identifying the appropriate UHF frequencies that are approved for use with hotspots or access points. And John WB5EKU posted the link for the Southern California UHF band plan. I realize that only applies to Southern California, but the follow-up question was, all right, where within the band plan ought I to be looking? That is, should I be at the bottom? I mean, in this band plan that there is a link for it, at least for Southern California, of the groupings and identifications of band allocations by this particular coordinating group, Scrubba we call them. Where should I look? And it looks like Don's answered it, and he's provided, at least for Southern California, the frequencies that are approved for use for digital, in particular 431000. Well, you guys can read what's in the shout box. And that might be of concern to some because I know a lot of people like to hang around the ordinary simplex frequencies. Keep in mind, though, that frankly, as long as you're operating the lowest possible power to connect, that is to have your hotspot receive your signal, which is appropriate, especially if, you don't want to swamp the receiving antenna. But you can be pretty much anywhere, although I would certainly stay away from some of the sensitive frequencies, such as, satellite upload and download, satellite links, and other specific low power operations that are specifically allocated. You just listen and make sure that no one's interfering with you, and you listen carefully to make sure the frequency is clear. The problem comes up, of course, when you want to operate a true hotspot on high power, covering your home, most of your block, and even perhaps most of your city. Therein lies the need to check with the coordinating committee. So, with that observation, I want to see if anyone, including the posters or anyone else, wish to add to, the discussion about how best to select a simplex frequency for your hotspot and your radio. Please, Kia.
WB5EKU.
WB5EKU. Go ahead.
WB5EKU. Okay. No, I just wanted to add that I think it's very important that we all play within our spectrum management associations and allocations. Yes, the ham bands are free and you can go anywhere you want, but there are certain areas that you really should be aware of. One of them is satellite. You might not hear the satellite, but if you start transmitting and the satellite comes into view and you don't know that, you might be blocking out the satellite portions. So I think it's quite important before you just plop a frequency into your hotspot. Make sure that you're, you within certain band limits. And check your own local coordinating area. That's important. You can use Google. You can do any type of search that you want. But it's really important that you stay within the band. WB5EKU.
Thank you, Don. Good advice. Any other comments on simplex frequency selection for hotspot operation? Please key up.
W6KD.
And we welcome Bob, W6KD, to the roundtable. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mike, and everybody on the net. I've got a little bit different take on it. The band plan is important, but it's important for a reason, and not just for blindly following the band plan. Certainly in the weak signal segments of the band, satellite, weak signal, that kind of stuff, where particularly where people are using sideband and CW and other modes that unlike FM don't have the capture effect, and if you're transmitting there, your signal even off an HT in your house could be a real problem for somebody trying to work weak sideband or CW signal to or from a satellite or terrestrial, whatever. But barring that, though, the standard is to not interfere with others with coordinated communications elsewhere. And I guarantee you that a 10 milliwatt transmitter in your basement is not going to interfere with a 100-watt transmitter from a repeater on the mountain towering over you. You probably don't want to be on the input frequency because you might end up keying, depending on how they have it all set up, you might end up riding in on the input. But, if you transmit with your 10-watt hotspot on a repeater output frequency, you are not going to interfere with their communications. That 100-watt signal coming off that repeater is going to capture their radio every single time. So, it's not going to interfere. It might annoy them because they might hear some digital hash, but anybody attempting to use that repeater, by the way, they can turn their squelch up and solve that problem, but anybody using that repeater is going to be able to effectively communicate, and you will not be interfering with the coordinated station on that frequency. So there's room for everybody, and I don't know. I don't think it's a necessity to run away screaming from a frequency that's coordinated for another purpose, as long as you're not going to interfere with it. And any FM frequency that's using high power transmissions like ATV, like repeater operations, auxiliary operations, etc. If you're talking with your 10 milliwatt hotspot in your house and somebody's using that same frequency as an auxiliary frequency to control a repeater, I guarantee you they can key up and do whatever they want. Let me reset. They can key up on that frequency and do whatever they need to do with the repeater. It's not going to bother anything. If somebody insists that they have a right to a clear frequency where they can't hear you, well, that's not interference. You're not interfering with their ability to communicate. So that's my 2 cents on it. It's ideally you find a place where there's nobody else, and in places that's easy to do, and in other places that's not easy to do. And if you can't find a frequency like that, then find a frequency where you can coexist. And I think the auxiliary parts of the band are a good one too, because those are typically guys with high power transmitters that use those frequencies for, controlling the repeater on top of the hill. And again, if you're talking at 10 milliwatts inside your house, you're not going to prevent them from keying up and controlling their repeater with a 50-watt signal from their much bigger antenna going to the repeater on the hill. So the bottom line is you have to consider the circumstances in addition to the band plan. You know, there's a lot of coordinated authorities that think that they're God and that they that they make the rules. But the reality is that there's not going to be a problem unless somebody can show that you are actually interfering with their ability to communicate on that coordinated frequency. And at 10 milliwatts, you got to work to do that. Back to the net, W6 Kitty.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone with opposing, different, or want to expand on the discussion concerning simplex frequency selection for your hotspot, please key up.
N5WD.
N5WD. Thanks for being with us, Wayne. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mike. N5WD in Ponder, Texas. Two things. First of all, if you're up in the FM portion of the 440 to 450 megahertz band, many of the stations are running squelch tone and digital squelch and stuff like that, so there's even less likely a chance that you're going to be bothering them. I proved that at Hamcom in Dallas, where I was operating a little hotspot on the output frequency of a local repeater, and nobody ever even heard me. Most people were running a tone squelch, and about a little 10 milliwatts from the car, would get me in the parking lot, and that was about it. The other point is, there's a whole lot of frequency space in the 430 to 440 megahertz range that I guarantee you're not going to be bothering anybody. Even if you plop down in the middle of the ATV band or something like that, 10 milliwatts versus a 6 megahertz vestigial sideband TV signal is not going to do anything. You happen to plop down on the control frequency, so you'll probably never ever know it, neither will they. There's a whole lot of frequency space available in the UHF band, so use it.
Sounds good. Stations, please key up.
Anyway, that's my plug nickel, N5WD.
Well, I'm glad you upgraded it from just 2 cents. All right, any further comments on simplex frequencies? Please key up. All right, nothing seen or heard. Now, everybody's welcome if you have a band plan that is in PDF form or otherwise at a specific page in a website. If you'd like to post that, you're welcome to do so in the shout box, or perhaps open up a new board in the current, or a new folder in the current discussion. Well, actually, a new board within a folder of current discussions, and we can collect those that have suggestions. In fact, I understand that some of the coordinating groups have specific frequencies set aside for just this kind of communications using a hotspot at low power, as well as a hotspot at higher power. I haven't seen anything like that, and of course in Southern California that would be unheard of, but and they certainly would. I doubt that they would assign anything to it, but it's neither here nor there. All right, before I get any further, I made a comment concerning the Icon V-Star QSO party and that reflectors can be used. I thought that I had some information on how to log reflectors, and apparently there isn't anything different other than to log the same information as you would under the rules for a QSO on a repeater. If you want to mark in there the reflector that was used, just like you could mark in there in the comments the repeater that was used, you're welcome to do so, but I have that on pretty good authority. So apparently this has been going on for some time. It's just, well, you know how it is, unwritten rules. There's always an unwritten rule somewhere. Right. There's some discussions in the current discussions category, and we're going to hold those off till when we get into talking about 4K transcoding. I also noted that there was an interesting post that was read but didn't have a lot of follow-up comments from K7REX, posted back in February concerning his use of a high-power hotspot, including involving an IC2820H in FM mode that was set to be a crossband repeater radio, which on one side is VHF and the other side is UHF, and the frequency is the open spot. So on the VHF side, he had a 50-watt D-Star hotspot frequency, and then through the crossband repeat function, it was bridged to the open spot of the UHF. And you can read Dan's entire post in the forum board in general discussions, and then find D-Star high power hotspot. But the point of all of this is that there was a question posted by KG7VRV that asked, well, look, how can this work without digital voice mode? And that was responded to by W6KD. And he makes an important point that sometimes is either overlooked or just not understood. And he said, absolutely, not obviously. And you can read Bob's reply. But the point here is that crossband repeating radio is only receiving and rebroadcasting, as Bob writes, a GMSK signal, which is an analog representation of a digital stream. So the crossband radio does not have to be in digital mode. Now, you should lock out FM and have it set on DV on the radios, but the radio serving as a repeater does not have to have any digital encode or decode capability at all, and it works fine. And as K7REX attested to, it works very well, and it suits his needs. So it's worth taking a look at, General Discussions Board, and if you've had any similar experiences or are having any difficulty or wish to add to that, feel free to post it, because crossband repeat is something that most of the D-Star radios are capable of doing, and it's popular for those that want to do just that, especially if they like to put up, as apparently Dan did, a high-power hotspot. So be sure to take a look at that. And I'll ask if anyone or the participating stations or anybody else with any interest in this has any comments. We'll take you now.
W6KD.
I have KC8YQL and W6KD. First to Bill, KC8YQL. Go ahead.
Hey, Don, if you're listening, I'm on the Blue DV using a thumb drive. Hope you're hearing me okay, Mike. Anyway, I've been doing that forever, Mike. I think you guys already know that, or maybe you forgot. It's basically like taking the discriminator line tap out of the back of the repeaters. It's unfiltered, unclamped audio. The 2820 and the 5100 both will do it. And I have the 2820 crossband right now. I never uncross it. 2820 is crossed up right now, believe it or not. You're going to say, yuck, Mike. It's crossed on our Fusion repeater. I use it 24/7. Never shut it off. I've got my little Fusion FT1D sitting here on the table. And it's linked to about 5 different Fusion networks. And one of them is going through my 2820 back out to the Defiance Fusion repeater, which is about, 15 miles from my house. So I run a 10th of a watt on the HT, talking to the hotspots with it, and it talks to the 2820. And I have ran DMR through the 2820 as well. And of course, it obviously does D-Star. And the reason it does all those modes is because it does not do any filtering between the two bands. And I was really happy when they come out with the FTM 400 Delta radio. Couldn't wait to get over to one. Found out their filter in between the bands. The Yaesu FTM 400s will not cross band repeat in Fusion. They'll do FM okay, but won't even do Fusion. So no Fusion radio on the 400 here at my house till they take some filtration out of those two bands so we can cross band repeater. Back to you, Mike. And by the way, I've been running the 2820, usually not on 50 watts. I run it on mid-power 15, and I used to talk to my mobile all the time through the hotspot here at the house to Defiance, which is about 12 miles. Of course, now I throw the open spot in the car, and I always take it with me, so usually don't do the DM or D-Star crossing on the 2820. Back to that, KC8YQL, and let me know how the Blue DV's doing. And I am running a desktop microphone on the computer. I do not use the internal mic, otherwise my audio will sound a little bit on the muffly side. Hopefully this don't sound too bad. KC8YQL.
Bill, you sound fine. In fact, I don't think there's been a time when you sounded bad. All right, appreciate it. W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, I just wanted to correct one thing you said there. You said that the cross-banding radio would be in DV mode, and that's actually not the case. Because you're both receiving and retransmitting GMSK, both sides of the radio, that's the crossband repeating radio, like a 2820, for example, are going to be in FM mode, not in the DV mode. DV mode brings into play the transcoder, which is completely superfluous to an operation like that. So if you follow the guides that are out there, you'll have both sides of the radio in FM, and no D-Star. There's nothing D-Star going on in that cross-banding radio. So anyway, the other thing I was gonna sort of throw out and maybe ask the question, according to the DX Engineering website, the 4100, the ID 4100, the new mobile radio from ICOM does not do crossband repeat, which is a little bit of a surprise to me. But their little capability matrix says no. I haven't gone into the manuals to see if that's correct. I wonder if anybody else knows different or can confirm that. Back to the net, W6KD.
Well, first, yeah, thank you for correcting me. I did misstate that, and part of it was just reading too quickly, and what I should have said is that on the 2820, for example, the digital monitor setting has to be set to digital or DV to prevent the auto FM DV switching back and forth, and this is a setting described by K7REX in its post. And digital monitor is simply a way of allowing you to listen to FM if it comes in on the same frequency as digital voice. And you can exclude FM or exclude DV if you wanted to, but he says set it to digital to prevent the receiver from doing automatic switching and flip-flopping back and forth from FM to DV and DV to FM. That's what I meant to say. And W6KD, does that sound better or right, or is that still... I mean, if Dan is incorrect, I certainly don't want to give out bad info. W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have the how-to sheet in front of me, and I've got it on a 3x5 card, but I think it's out of my RV right now. And there is a setting that you set to DV, but it's not the mode on the radio. It's it keeps the radio from auto switching into DV mode, like you said. But frankly, I don't remember the details exactly. And generally, when I set it up, I go to my little cheat sheet. So So I will defer to that. But yeah, but when you're crossband repeating, the crossband radio is not doing anything in terms of encoding or decoding the digital stream. It's just it's receiving the FM, the GMSK. GMSK is an FM signal. It's an FM waveform, and it's just taking that and pumping it right through the internals of the radio, right into the modulator. Takes it right out of the discriminator of the receiver and puts it right back into the modulator of the other side of the radio, the other VFO, and away it goes. So and it's FM the whole way. GMSK FM in and GMSK / FM out, yeah, but you have to set up the radio so that it doesn't try to outsmart you. Back to Net 360.
Yeah, and so this just has to do with the fact there's two settings in the 2820, and I can't recall them right at this point in time. It's not terribly important, but occasionally that has come up over the years, although not lately, about why am I having my radio, switching violently between FM and DV, and the answer is, well, because you have it set in digital monitor receive only, not the mode of operation, to listen to both, and you've got a signal coming, an FM signal and a DV signal on the same frequency, so there's a way to keep that from happening. All right, I appreciate it. So there's that regarding crossband repeat. So as we move on, any follow-up to last week's discussions? If you were listening on recording and wish to add to a topic that was discussed last week, or if you participated in a discussion and had an update or some new information, other than on 4K transcoding, we're going to take that on separately and in more depth than we did last week. But I just like to give stations a chance to perhaps listen to this on the podcast or listen to it on a taped basis to chime in on something that they thought was worthy of our attention concerning a topic from last week. Stations, please keep up.
KC8YQ.
KC8YQL, go ahead.
Hey, Mike, just a quickie. I wanted to comment on Bob's question there, and he's going to think probably like running his flight simulator. When I tell him this, he's going to think, oh, now, wait a minute. That only makes good sense. The 4100 Bob's just like the same footprint as the 880H. It is a dual band radio, but one band at a time. It's not possible to cross band repeat. Back to that, KC8YQL.
This last transmission sounds like you're carrying your desk mic, or you keep moving it around. There's a lot of shuffle noise going on with it. So, so what is it that can't be used? I missed that, Bill, and that you can't use with crossband. I just missed that. KC8YQL, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a loose solder connection in the bottom of this microphone, so hopefully you're hearing me okay. I'm trying to hold it still. I might have been wiggling around. I was telling Bob the 4100 new D-Star rig is almost the identical footprint of a radio as the 880H, which I have sitting here next to me. It is a dual band radio, but it's incapable of cross band repeating because it only does one band at a time. There is no two bands at one time displayed on the 880 or the 4100. Back to net. KC8YQL. I'm gonna throw this microphone out the window.
Oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, I haven't. That feature hasn't been discovered as either available or not available in the 4100. Although we now have information that it isn't. That is sad, but apparently ICOM in its infinite wisdom has decided that that's a feature that is no longer important to D-Star users, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Because I think the radio also does FM, and that's too bad. Oh well, we'll find out if any 4100 users find that, in fact, the radio does not have crossband repeat, or it does, let us know so we can keep everybody informed. Especially if you thought that wouldn't that be sad to buy that radio wanting to do a crossband repeat? Alrighty. In fact, actually, is that a UHF only mobile or is it dual band? I think it's dual band. In any event, all right. We just Hamcom concluded a little bit ago the ARRL Southwestern Division Convention that was in Torrance, California, at the Marriott. Any stations who wish to give a report on Hamcom, we'll take you now. Please key up.
W6KD.
W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, this is not about Hamcom. It's a follow-up, one final comment about the last one. Yeah, that makes sense, Bill. I've never actually had or handled an 880, but I'm semi-familiar with it. So what the 4100 is, assuming that, since it resembles the 880 so similarly, is it's a single VFO dual band capable radio. In other words, the single VFO can go either on VHF or UHF, but there's only one VFO, so whichever it's doing is all the radio's doing, as opposed to the 5100 and the 2820, which have dual double band or VHF and UHF capable VFOs. So you can actually do dual receive, at least on FM you can. It only has the one vocoder still, but okay. So that's the difference. So that's a significant difference for somebody that thinks that they would like to have the ability to cross mode repeat, and it's really handy if you're trying to set up a high power hotspot in a campsite or something like that in a portable operation or whatever. That's another drawback on the 4100, but it does have access point and terminal access point mode. So you can tether it to your. Anyway, I'm being a little sarcastic. Back to that W6KD.
Well, thank God it has access point and terminal mode capability. I mean, what will we do without that? All right, thanks, Bob. So I'm surprised that nobody attended Hamcom and found anything interesting to report on. Nothing new as far as digital radios, hotspot devices, access points. Nothing new or interesting. No forums that shed light on topics that are of interest to this net. So just checking, Hamcom attendees, a brief report is all we need. Or was it a complete dud? I mean, that would be fine as well. We can cross off Hamcom next year. If it wasn't any good, stations, please key up. Alrighty, nothing seen or heard. Maybe we got a group here that doesn't go to conventions. Of course, other than I guess Dayton and the one in Florida, the Hamcation. So we wanted to talk last week and this week about 4K transcoding that is available here on the Kings of Digital system that involves a constellation of X reflectors And unfortunately, K6KD was absent and could not be with us. Well, he was with us in spirit, not necessarily mind or body. And there's a number of questions and topics that have come up, both from last week as well as through this week, as stations begin to use and experiment with 4K transcoding. And so I wanted to ask John, in fact, I do, and I am, and I will ask K6KD to, provide some additional insight into the 4K transcoding, and more specifically, it might be, actually, John, you may want to start out with the host file change for XLX313, but afterwards, how to use the images and get your hotspot ready and able to set it up to use 4K transcoding might be a way to begin, but I'll leave that up to you. K6KD, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Mike and the net. By the way, I'm using a THD-74A radio now. Mike, maybe you can tell me, is it clear? How's the audio? Back to you first.
Sounds fine to me.
Okay, very good. Well, I'll mention that topic, but that'll be the second item instead of the first item. XLX313 is capable of transcoding. It has 6 modules that provide D-Star, DMR, and transcoding between the two. People connect with D-Star. D-Star to D-Star will work. D-Star to DMR to DMR, and across both modes. The module A is connected to the constellation reflectors. So 313 alpha is linked to all the constellation reflectors module alpha. And but the other modules, module B Bravo is linked to the QuadNet, and the module C, D, E, and F are not currently linked to other reflectors as of yet. The big picture, a lot of times we talk about, specific things and acronyms, and people get lost because they haven't been following and they don't see the big picture. So I wanted to just first make reference to a paper that I wrote that is in current discussions. It is, right now it's the second thread there. It actually is a big picture. It describes the XRF, XLX, and the XRF, that we're currently using has some advantages over XLX. XLX has advantages over XRF. The paper describes that, and it also describes the use of DMR gateway. So although it's big picture in that it covers a lot of different things, it also gets into specifics on radio programming. So anyway, that's the big picture. So let me first talk about D-Star connections, and then I'll probably take a pause and pass it back to Mike before going on into the DMR connections. In terms of connecting with D-Star, I was assuming that most D-Star connections would be made to the existing D-Star linked reflectors, 002 alpha, 310 alpha, 555 alpha, or XLX212 alpha. And with those connections, you don't do anything differently from what you're doing right now. If you want to connect directly to 313 alpha, you can do that as well. But that's what Mike was alluding to, the host file changed. And that happened about a month ago. I didn't, I probably should have, I think I timed out. Okay. Anyway, I didn't make a big announcement about it because I thought most of the connections would be to the existing, most of the D-Star connections would be to the existing X-Reflectors, and since it changed a month ago, it would be time for a lot of the images that automatically do updates to get that. So I didn't make a big deal about it, but I understand that did create some confusion. I didn't need to. I did need to make a change because for reasons that are probably more detailed than we need to go into, but there were existing links that 313 had before it took the transcoding role, and I needed those links to be cleaned out. And that required either changing the reflector number or changing the IP and DNS server and domain names. And either one would have been equally disruptive in requiring a host file update. So I decided to keep the same 313 number and change the IP address and the server and domain names. I think that's picked up in most of the hotspots. I know it's now in DStar Commander if you do a host update in the your call field. So anyway, that's all I was going to say about D-Star connections. Mostly they're the same, except for for wanting to connect directly to 313. So let me pass it back to Mike first for any comments, questions before going on into DMR. Back to you, Mike.
All right, let's call for stations who may have questions about what you've heard thus far. If you do, please key up.
W5PFR.
W5PFR. Welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. W5PFR handles Johnny. I'm in Mississippi. Question is the DMR. What channel of DMR is this connected to? I tried to find out, but I never did. I read whatever I could. What channel on DMR are we linked to? Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I didn't make myself clear, John. And the question and answer, once a question is posted, you can go ahead and directly answer without me having to call on you until you're done answering it, or anyway. Go ahead, John. K6KD.
Okay, didn't want to violate protocol. Well, I was just discussing D-Star. I'm going to get to DMR, presently in the next part. So, well, I guess we're still asking if there are any questions about the D-Star part of it. So, let's see if there are D-Star connect questions first, and then, as I said before, I'll get into the DMR. So, I guess it goes to Mike to say if there are any questions, just to be formal.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So W5PFR, just hang on. John's going to get to the DMR, and if you still have any questions, you can ask at that time, but he's got your question in mind and is going to answer it. Any questions concerning either the host file change to XLX313 or connecting by D-Star, please key up.
W4WWM.
W4WWM. Welcome, and go ahead.
Well, good evening to the net, the Roundtable net. It's always good to check in and say hello to Johnny there. Hadn't heard that fellow in quite some time. But anyway, my question directed to John would be, I know earlier I was looking for that, I guess the IP to, or the host name to the reflector, so I could make sure that it was in my host file, and as well as when I was configuring for the cross mode. I guess I seen two different host names, and I did finally figure out which one was which. And so with that, I guess do you think that maybe you could notify what is the current, it's actually the current host name in the host file at this current time. That's the current host name in the host file at this time. So that's what I want to know. That's the current host name of 313 in the host name file at this time. I think I got that right without confusing anybody. I think I said it about 3 times, but I just want to make sure that I got that right question at John. So that is the correct host name that identifies in the host file at this time, right? Back over to you, Mike, W4WW.
Well, I'm going to let John answer directly, and John, make sure that you reference the posted documents concerning this and anything else that you are going over, so that people can know where to look in the event they want to read more. K6 Katie, go ahead.
Okay, Mike, and yeah, how you doing there, Will? Well, when you say current and correct, the current is kind of tough because there's a previous and the current. So the current, if the current meant the previous, and we get all tied up. What it previously was in the host files was xlx313.xrayromeo.echo.foxtrot.lima.net, xrefl.net. If you see that in any of your host files, that should be changed. That will no longer work. The correct name, and actually, I did something. There's actually two of them that that either one will work, and I sort of created some confusion, I think. But the new information is xlx313.openstd.net. That's Oscar Papa Echo November Sierra Tango Delta.net. And it's to mean open standard. It's not to mean open something else. So xlx313.openstd, all one word, .net. And the new IP is 34.213.108, I should say, .164. And all that is documented in a thread also in current discussions called Connecting to XLX313 and Host File Discussion. Now, what I also did, I was thinking, I don't know what I was thinking actually, but I thought it might be at some point desirable to separate out the transcoding from the 313. So there's another URL that I've posted that, for the DMR host files, and maybe this just does nothing but cause confusion. But in any event, if you see a reference to dmr.openstd.net, it goes exactly to the same place. So if you see instructions that say dmr.openstd.net, that'll work. xlx313.openstd.net will work. Now, in that thread in current discussions, let me reset real quick. I'm back. I go into some detail about host files, host file entries, directories, and options to use host files if you do need to make manual entries. And this is based upon the typical G4KLX implementation, which exists in the, for D-Star Commander. It exists in the MMDVM based images. So it deals specifically with 313. It does talk about the different kinds of D-Star entries. So again, that's in the thread. Most people probably don't need to worry about that, but I thought I'd put a comprehensive discussion, or at least I think it's comprehensive. Anyway, that is in the thread, current discussions connecting to XLX313 and host file discussions. So let me, I guess I'll pause and see if there are any questions.
The stations with questions concerning connecting via D-Star or about host files for XLX313, please key up now. Nothing seen or heard in that respect, so K6KD, please continue.
Okay, very good. Well, now we come to DMR. The XLX313 is referred to in images as an XLX master. There are different kinds of masters, DMR masters rather. There are Brandmeister DMR masters, there are DMR plus DMR masters, and there are XLX DMR masters. And that paper that I referred to a little bit earlier does describe those at a little bit higher level. The master for, and one of the images that's already configured for is PyStar. That has the XLXs all built in, and I guess you just select them. But I'm not a PyStar expert, but I do know from talking to PyStar experts that it is already configured as far as the hotspot itself. If you're using, say, a KB5RAV image with DMR Gateway, you would have to put that in. You have to put that in yourself. And I do describe in another folder. This is also in the roundtable.tech. It's in the category open. Well, there's a current discussions category, a general roundtable discussions category, and an open digital system file sharing and how-to category. And within that third category is a folder called Open DMR XLX Reflectors, and it covers connecting from OpenSpot, connecting from MMDVM host with DMR Gateway, the two major areas. So let me just reset real quick. Okay, well, I was talking about the MMDVM and DMR Gateway. Now, if you're using a current image, the KB5RAV image or the PyStar, that already has DMR Gateway in there, and that determines how you program your radio. If you are using a MMDVM image without DMR Gateway, it would be different. But I don't cover the use of MMDVM hosts without DMR Gateway for this reason. I believe that most people with DMR radios are going to want the ability to change their talk groups in their radio and go to either XLX or Brandmeister, which DMR Gateway enables you to do. If you don't have DMR Gateway, then you can only go either to Brandmeister or to an XLX master or to a DMR plus master. And if you want to change and go to a different one, you have to go in and edit an MMDVM.ini file and restart the service, so I'm just assuming that people who have DMR radios and want to connect to XLX do not want to give up the capability of easily going to Brandmeister. So that's why when I'm covering MMDVM host, I'm only covering that in the case of using DMR Gateway. So let me I just have a fear of timing out. So let me reset again real quick. Okay, so maybe I should describe a little bit about what DMR Gateway does at a very high level, because that'll explain why that impacts how you program your radio. DMR Gateway enables you to be subscribed to multiple multiple DMR masters independent of one another. And in order for that to work, it has to have you need the ability to remap talk groups. Otherwise, it would be good if you can subscribe to multiple DMR masters at the same time, but if they were using the same talk groups and you didn't have a way to remap that, it would it would be ambiguous and confusing and wouldn't work. So the images, DMR Gateway, it enables multiple different configuration options, but most of the images follow the standard of mapping the talk groups, the XLX talk groups from 4001 to 4026. They are mapped such that you use a manual dial or channel contact as a private call to 64001 to 64026, and that gets into programming the radio, and you have talk group 6 as a group call as opposed to talk group 9. And what that does is it eliminates the confusion between an XLX master and a Brandmeister master. Most of the DMR gateways do not change how you access the Brandmeister masters, or because that would be total confusion if they did. So let me. The only other thing to be complete is there's two other topics I can get into. One is the OpenSpot, which is another thread, and I described the OpenSpot connector settings, and I think that's pretty straightforward. That's another thread in the same folder. The other thing is the upcoming DMR gateway, and maybe we shouldn't even get into that, as that would create more confusion. So anyway, let me at this point pass it back to Mike.
All right, so any questions thus far about connecting to 4K transcoding, that is XLX313 via DMR? Please key up.
W6KD.
I have W4WWM and W6KD. First to W4WWM. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks much, Mike. Well, actually, I think it's a very good presentation of the now known system with the transcoding, okay? But I think the main topic within this specialized, I think where a lot of confusion is, they don't. A lot of people don't seem to understand that, as you mentioned earlier, you definitely have to have that gateway part built in into the system to do your configurations. Now there are some that out there, even with that has the DMR configuration, and they don't, as you mentioned earlier, they don't. This is one version that they don't have the DMR gateway built in. So then the question becomes, how do I add the gateway to the current configuration to work with the MMDVM hosts currently? And then the second part is, then there are the newer images that like Pi-Star in I think you mentioned KB5 that does have the image with the gateway system built in already, and then all you have to do is go in to the config file. But now there is a third entity to this. There is probably a small group who may want to separate the DMR gateway to a different PC. All these are technical issues, and I think they are all of them could cause confusion. Probably why a lot of questions are coming about it. So I guess we're going to have to really, really drill down in there to cover all three aspects of those because I believe more are going to come ask about the configurations. So the DMR gateway that's connected to MMDVM host or MDVM host has a DMR gateway that, as John stated, that would talk to the three different types of DMR networks. And so a lot of confusion, some confusion because we did work over last weekend getting stationed with help from another station. Had two stations trying to get DMR coded in there, working through the gateway, and yes, through an open spot. But we was able to get it with the help of all three heads, and things seemed to go pretty good. But we did spend a pretty good amount of time going back to the information you put out, which is a broad coverage, and I think some more in-depth nature of the subject needs to be covered.
All right, I think Will was done. It sounded like he and Keaton. I did hear a beep. So, John, any comment? K6KD, go ahead.
Well, of course. Well, first of all, if you have an older, if you have an older image that has MMDVM host without DMR gateway, you can get DMR gateway from the GitHub and do that. But I think it's for all practical purposes, it's a lot easier to if you want to get under the hood, I think probably the KB5RAB image is for people wanting to get under the hood, and will provide it. It has a lot of nice shortcuts and things available for administering both DMR gateway as well as MMDVM host. So I think that's a good way to go for people that don't want to get under the hood too much and just want something, nice and finished. I think that Pi-Star works pretty well. Now, as far as typically the images have DMR gateway on the same computer, the same image as MMDVM host. And, a little discussion, I'm sure, Will, you're familiar with this, but DMR gateway looks like a server to MMDVM host. So MMDVM host just thinks MMDVM host can only talk to one DMR master. And in the past it was either XLX Grandmeister DMR Plus. Now it talks to one XLX, one DMR master, which is DMR gateway. So from MMDVM host perspective, DMR gateway is a server. But DMR gateway has a split personality. It's also multiple clients that talk to the real, DMR servers. And I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Will. You were looking at separating out the DMR gateway from MMDVM host. And I don't see any reason why you can't do that because they, both of them have IP, a number of parameters associated with IP address that most of them are, the 127.0.0.1, the loopback on, for being on the same machine. If you can separate them, and as long as you keep track of the ports, I think you're okay. But the one issue I'm not, typically if you're going to separate them, that suggests that you may want a DMR gateway to serve multiple MMDVM hosts. And I'm not sure that the software as it's configured will do that. I don't think, I think DMR, I was about to time out, I think. But I don't think I did quite. But anyway, MMDVM, can talk to whatever DMR gateway you point it to, but I'm not aware of DMR gateway able to keep track of multiple MMDVM hosts. Because if you look at the IP parameters, I don't see a way to differentiate. Now, I don't know if that was what you were wanting to do, but I thought I would just mention that. So let me pass it back to you, Will.
Okay, appreciate that, John. But somewhat yes, and but not multiple hosts, not multiple MMDVM hosts. And yes, I understand how it works. I haven't gotten it working yet because I haven't had enough time to spend on it. But in theory, I've looked at some things, and now, yeah, light bulb did come on, but not necessarily. No, I do not want the MM to have multiple MMDVM hosts. So just that one MMDVM host talking to that one DMR gateway on a separate PC. Why? Because I am rearranging the system to have all gateways, DMR gateways, Yaesu gateways, P25 gateways on one PC, and have all the other applications talk to them so separately, so I can really divide them and learn a lot more from them that way. I know it may sound like a lot of pain, but it's a lot of fun when you're discovering and experimenting. That's what we like to do, is experiment. But yeah, I understand the concept, and just wanted to be known that that could arise, and we probably should kind of be aware of it a little bit for the experimental part of it. So no, I understand the concept totally, and will work. Matter of fact, we've had something very similar to that already working. So no, just one host, MMDVM host, talking to the split gateway from a different system on a different system. And so yes, the only thing as the information you gave me that we were looking at changing was the IP to talk to the machine that is split. But anyway, the biggest thing that I really wanted to imply is that there's two parts to the brand new person who's coming in and looking at configurations. They got to really take in consideration that there's basically two parts of this information you're going to have to track to get going, even with the new images. As you stated, the easiest one, and I agree 100%, the easiest one is Pi-Star. And if one do want to get under the hood, then go to the other image, KB5, whatever the call was. I can't remember the suffix on that call, but anyway, it's there. But as for those who want something easy and not don't want too much of a headache, they really do want to work with Pi-Star. Unless you can get I don't know if GitHub now will pull down the full.
Well, W4WWM timed out. Let's wait for him to unkey. W4WWM and 6HKH.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
W4W
Yeah, you timed out, and apparently you were nearly done, so about the last 30 seconds of your transmission was missed. Did you want to cover that again?
Negative. The only thing I was doing was just thanking John for the discussion, and hopefully others can pick up something from the discussion. Back over to you.
Well, that was worth repeating, and well, we appreciate your contribution. Next up is W6KD. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike. Hey, I think it probably would be good for people who haven't been involved in this to define some of the more basic terms of art, maybe paint a little bit bigger framework. We're throwing a lot about MMDVM and masters and the likes, and for somebody who's never looked at this, it's going to be very foreign to them. I'm going to throw out a couple things, a couple analogies, a couple frameworks that I use to explain this stuff. For those folks that are D-Star only, which is probably most on the net tonight, if you're using a Raspberry Pi-based hotspot with a DVAP or a DV Mega, you're using the underlying software is IRC DDB Gateway. Whether you're using D-Star Commander or Maryland or the Western D-Star image, those are all variations of the IRC DDB Gateway program. And MMDVM, or the multi-mode digital voice module, that program incorporates the IRC DDB Gateway, but it also adds two other pieces, the YSF, or Yaesu System Fusion Gateway, and now the DMR Gateway. So you have three modules. What you've been using all along, IRC DDB Gateway, is the D-Star piece of MMDVM still. The DMR Gateway is the DMR piece, and YSF Gateway is the Yaesu Fusion piece. And MMDVM is the overall software. And just like with IRC DDB Gateway, you might have D-Star Commander or the Maryland image as your image. Pi-Star or the KB5 RAB images are MMDVM images that incorporate the multi-mode digital voice module program with all of the modules. Let me change hands and reset here. So when we talk about DMR Gateway, we're talking about the DMR analog to IRC DDB Gateway, which you've been using for a long time probably to run your hotspot, with your DVAP or your DV Mega. And then the other thing is when we talk about a DMR master, you can think of a DMR master as being like a reflector in D-Star. And instead of having modules A, B, C through Z in some cases, like we do in D-Star, instead of a module, you have what they call a talk group. And the talk group is strictly speaking a number. And so if you are on the Brandmeister DMR system, you're going to be connected to one of the various master servers or master hosts, or DMR masters as we call them in the Brandmeister universe. And you can think of that the same as being connected to the constellation here. And when you connect to a talk group, you can think of that as going to module A or module B, except it might be talk group 4012 or something like that. So that's those are the building blocks, sort of in an analogous manner to what we have in D-Star. So when we talk about connecting to a DMR master, it is very, very similar to the concept of linking to a reflector. And when we talk about using a particular talk group, it's analogous. It's not exactly the same. There are some differences, but it's very similar to being linked to a particular module on a reflector. So if you're on the XLX313 DMR master and linked to talk group 4001, it's an analogous, the same thing as being connected on D-Star to XLX313 or XRF313 module A. And in fact, those two are actually they're actually connected together. One's on the DMR side, one's on the D-Star side. So that's maybe a little bit broader, back up a step umbrella at what we're talking about here. So MMDVM is the multi-mode program, and DMR Gateway is the DMR equivalent to IRC-DDB Gateway, which we use every day in the D-Star world. So with that, I will back out and let the the tutorial continue. That was just kidding.
All right, Bob, thanks. And that does help in the big picture, especially for those new to transcoding. So let me call on W5PFR to see if his question concerning DMR connecting to the 4K transcoder has been answered. W5PFR, go ahead. Well, no response. Hopefully he's just listening. All right, anyone with questions thus far on what you've heard about transcoding and connecting to the 4K transcoder, that is XLX313, please key up. All right, didn't see or hear anybody, so K6KD, I guess it's back to you to carry on. K6KD, go ahead.
Okay, well, the next topic I was going to cover, and that maybe I should just do the real highlights. I don't know if people have gotten too much stuff, but the next thing I was going to talk about was the upcoming version of DMR Gateway, and maybe what I'll say is, just to keep things very simple, is to compare that with the current version of DMR Gateway. Right now, DMR Gateway, the current version, lets you connect a Brandmeister master, a DMR Plus master, and two XLX masters, what's called XLX Network 1 and XLX Network 2. Now, unlike Brandmeister, or DMR Plus, where you can connect to one master, and then with that one master, you can get to anywhere in the system. The XLX reflectors, the XLX DMR masters, are independent. So if you link up to or subscribe to XLX 313 as a DMR master, you can get to the talk groups associated with XLX 313, but not with another XLX reflector. So the current DMR Gateway allows for you to specify two XLX masters, and you have to program your radio differently. The upcoming version of DMR Gateway will allow up to 999 XLX masters to be selected, and you won't have to program your radio differently for each of those masters. That would be an awful lot of programming. All you'd have to do, there'll be some new channels or new dials, new contacts to select which master you want in a host file, and then the programming would be the same for each XLX once you selected the particular one. So maybe that's as much detail as we probably need to get into on that right now. And as far as I understand, that is still considered experimental. I don't believe it's been released to any of the images yet. So anyway, back to you, Mike, K6KD.
Well, we can certainly talk about the update to DMR Gateway when it comes out, but understanding that it's being improved, nothing wrong with what is presently there, and I haven't heard of any complaints, but, as transcoding and, this sort of thing, if I can use a non-technical term, moves along and improves technically, certainly, operating systems will be updated as they are, and so we'll look forward to the new version of DMR Gateway as you've described, and who knows what other fun things will be part of it. All right, at this point, let me see if there are either questions or is there something that we did not cover, generally about the 4K transcoding available from the Kings of Digital, that you'd like to hear about. We'll take your question now. Please keep it.
KB2FJD.
KB2FJD. Thanks for being with us. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening to the net, everybody listening. I have one question for K6KV. I have the open spot configured for the XLX 313 transcoder. Should the channel 5000, should that be a private channel or should that be just configured as a group channel? I'm a little, because if it's configured, I tried both and I haven't really been able to get any response from that particular channel. So, K6KD, can you give me any details on how that should be configured? And I appreciate it. This is KB2FJD. Back to me.
Alrighty, K6KD, what do you think?
Okay, well, first let me ask the KB2 station. You want the 5000 for status? Is that correct? Just to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. I just wanted to use that channel for status. I think that's the way you have it in the documentation. I tried configuring it, as a group channel and also as a private, and don't seem to be getting any response as far as status is concerned on that. Back to you, K6KD. Okay, well, you configure it out as a group, but the reason you may not be getting status back is the open spot responds to status on talk group 9. So what you need to do is, when programming your radio, make sure that talk group 9 is in your RX group. Does that make sense? Back to you. Yes, that is correct. That's the way I do have it set up. So I do have talk group 9 in my receive group. So that's why I was, asking, because it seems to be, do I need to connect like I do with 4001 and 4002 and then switch back to the talk group 9, or is that a little different? Okay, once you specify a profile in the open spot, and that profile has has the connector, and it has the the XLX 313 as the DMR master. You would still, unless you have let's see, does that have a default startup? I don't recall. Typically, yeah, you would connect a 4001 for talk to get to select talk group 4001, and then in order to actually talk, you would change that to a channel that specifically is talk group 9. So you have the other channels. You have like the 4001, 4006, let's say. You have talk group 9 in your receive group, but when it's time to talk, you would switch it to a channel that you would actually talk on talk group 9, and so that would be your talking channel. The others would be your connect or your status channels. Back to you. Okay, so would channel 5000 be set up as a private channel, just like I set up for 4001 and 4002? On the open spot, I'm getting my different hotspots mixed up. I didn't write that down, so I'll tell you what. I'll have to look at my configuration, and well, I guess I'd have to look at my radio programming. So I don't recall. I think those are group channels, but I would try it both ways just to cover myself because I don't remember. Sorry about that. I guess that back to you. Or let me see, back to Net. Let's see if or did you have any further questions? Sorry about that one ambiguity. I just don't. I haven't looked at my radio in a while, and I don't remember exactly. I think I typically. Well, I just forget off the top of my head which way I had that set. I should probably have put that in the message on the thread just to avoid any confusion. Aside from that, are you okay? Oh yeah, everything I have 4001, 4002. Those are configured as private groups, so private channels, and they're working fine because I'm talking to you on I'm talking to you now on the talk group 9 because that's the way you specified we should have it set up. But I was just trying to understand how to set up the status channel. I tried, like I said, I tried the private, I tried to set up as private, and I still haven't gotten a response, and I tried to set it up as group. So I was just wondering, must be something I'm missing or something, because I haven't been able to get a status back from the server itself, you know what I'm saying? So, but, if you can give me any other information on it, I appreciate it. This is KB2FJD. Sorry for that timeout. Okay, well, as I recall, I set up the parameters for 5000 the same as 4000, the 4000s. I don't recall there being any different. And, of course, the talk group 9 needs to be in the receive group for that 5000. So I guess I would check. I'm recalling, it would be set up the same way as the 4001 through 4006, just off the top of my head. But that's the best I can do, just right offhand. So I guess back to Net, K6KD.
Alrighty, stations with questions or comments about this topic, let's hear from you now. Please key up.
W6KD.
W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, for KB2FJD, I'm not clear from listening that there's a complete understanding of what the receive groups are versus switching over to the to talk group 9 as your sort of the equivalent of CQ in the D-Star world. I'm just going to say it one more time, a little bit different, because I'm not sure that the difference was clear. But each radio channel that you program in your radio on the DMR radio has the option for a receive group. It's called a receive group, and that receive group is set up in a separate area of the programming software, and that receive group needs to include talk group 9, or you will not hear any response coming back from the open spot. Because when you key up on 5000, your radio is set up to listen to something coming back on 5,000 as well. And the only way it will hear what comes back on talk group 9 while it's still set on 5,000 is it has to have a receive group set in that channel that includes talk group 9. Switching back over to talk group 9 as your as your channel for talking back and forth afterwards, yes, you have to do that, but that's a separate issue from having a receive group. If you understand that already, just pardon me, but it wasn't clear. It sounded maybe a little iffy that you were actually that you actually have a receive group programmed on that channel. So if you haven't actually seen that term receive group, you probably need to go find that in your programming software. Back to Net 36 Katie.
Thank you, Bob. Stations with questions, or if you wish to comment or add to the discussion, we'll take you as well. Please key up. All right, anything seen or heard? So, K6KD, anything further you'd like to add before we move on? K6KD, go ahead.
No, I believe I did. I did think that KB2 station did mention that he had talk group 9 in his receive group for 5,000. I'm pretty sure he said he had it in talk group 9 for 4,000, the 4001 series. I think so. Maybe Bob heard it a little bit differently. Anyway, back to Net. I don't have anything more. K6KD.
Okay, real good. We will talk about 4K transcoding as that's progressed, but I think we have gotten into most of the material that I think was of interest to those that have yet to, or perhaps are working on setting up their hotspots to connect to the XLX313. Now, be sure if you have any questions or just want to know more, to take a look at the discussions that have been posted by K6KD in the current discussion folder, and some important connection information that's posted again on the Roundtable forum board in the connecting from, let me go back up and get the exact time. Just want to make sure I've got it, didn't mess it up. You see a category called Open Digital System File Sharing and How To. That's right below the general roundtable discussion. And there you'll find 3 folders or 3 boards. Most importantly, of course, is OpenFusion, but probably number 3, OpenDMR, XLX reflectors, similar, etc. There is some interesting stuff posted there, some of which was not too recently updated. So just about everything we've talked about has been condensed down in some manner and either explained, as you've heard tonight, or is presented in greater detail. And also, another good resource is to go to xrefl.boards.net. And there you'll find extensive information about transcoding going on here on the Kingston Digital System. Now, one of the couple of interesting posts in the shout box from last week included a technical but fairly interesting post that K6KD put up there on the shout box. That was a paper called Loss, Latency, and Speed. We made mention to it. It talks about the network performance matrix and concepts that are often discussed in digital modes. And adding to that, John mentioned jitter, and that's a major factor leading to poor reception. And while we've talked generally about this from time to time, these problems are often the cause of packet loss, and the particular technical paper explains probably in one of the best ways I've seen exactly how you go about testing and measuring such things, as well as discussing the terms frequently used and what to expect, and putting some of the myths about loss and latency and speed to rest. And it was a pretty good paper. But I wanted to call on W6KD, if he doesn't mind, to talk a bit about this, and particularly jitter, which is, a big problem leading to poor reception, R2D2, and how the internet path to a station makes a difference. But I'll let Bob decide what he wants to talk about. But anyway, those two things are posted in the last week's shout box, including a download link to the particular technical document. W6KD, with that lengthy and perhaps unintelligible introduction, please go ahead.
Okay, well, I was in the next room when you started there, so if you could give me the short bullet on what it is you wanted me to talk about, I'd appreciate it.
What are the jitters and how to avoid them?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, for those of us who use, what I call ROIP, or radio over IP, which is, pretty much all of our interconnected gateways and reflectors and the likes, we're actually taking our audio signal. It's transformed into a stream of digital packets inside your radio, and then sent to a gateway, which could be a repeater or your hotspot, and then it's forwarded over the internet to one or more places. And some of the network topologies can be very complex. You talk to a gateway connected to a reflector. In the constellation here, for example, that reflector might be part of a cluster of 6 or 8 other reflectors, and then it gets shotgunned out to a whole bunch of different stations. And anyway, each of those different recipients receives that stream over a somewhat different path. And some of those paths are problematic for different reasons. Typically, when RF is involved, Wi-Fi or cellular links in particular are the biggest problems that we face with ROIP. You end up with some not interruption, but some disruption in the smoothness of the flow of those packets through the system. And so, what we would like, the ideal situation is to have one packet every 20 milliseconds or 50 packets per second, spaced completely evenly and just flowing through the system and arriving at the other end with that same every 20 millisecond spacing. But the realities are, because of the way that internet traffic is handled at the various different nodes where it is stored and forwarded, you can have that stream of packets arrive in a more clumpy manner. In other words, it may somewhere along the way those packets may be saved up and then forwarded in a group. Somewhere along the way, it may be, in fact, that some of those packets are forwarded over a different path than the packets that follow in the same stream. And let me reset here. And so anyway, that variation in that timing from that smooth every 20 millisecond tick is what we call jitter. And if something isn't done to smooth the processing of the packets on the receiving end out, then you won't get very smooth audio, because it needs to come into the decoder on your radio more or less in that 20 millisecond spacing. And so the way we solve that problem is by buffering the packet stream at various different points, at one or more points along the way, and ultimately in the gateway that the receiving station's connected to, so that by virtue of the cost of doing it is you add a little bit of lag, a little bit of latency, so that the stream comes in a little bit later than it would if it were if you didn't do the buffering. But what happens is you have a queue that stores these packets so that there's enough of them waiting so that it can send them to your radio with that every 20 millisecond spacing, and always be pulling one out of the bucket, so to speak, the queue, and sending it along every 20 milliseconds. And if you have a disruption that is sufficiently large so that even the de-jitter bucket that you have isn't deep enough, so to speak, so that it runs out of data, or that it overflows with data, then you run into problems. And we hear that in the form of R2D2 or distortion, choppiness in the audio, etc. And anyway, so that in a not so small nutshell is how jitter affects streaming communications, which is what our radio over IP is. The only device that actually gives you any control over it directly is the OpenSpot, which actually has a user configurable de-jitter buffer where you can select, how many milliseconds worth of data you want to be in the bucket. And for people using satellite links or other high latency, high jitter type connections, you might find the ability to smooth things out by making that buffer a little bigger. So that's my 2 cents on it. By the way, Mike, another first here. This whole last couple of transmissions was made on a Yaesu FTM 400 through the transcoder. So the transcoder is not just transcoding DMR. It's not ready for prime time, but it just goes to show you that Fusion is around the corner too. We'll have them all here on the reflector before long. Anyway. Timed out. Back to the
W6K.
Oh, I thought we got all of it. He said we're going to have it all before long, and I think that was the when you unkeyed. And I got to tell you, your last statement sent shivers down my spine because that is big news. And I realized in listening to you that you were on a different radio, but who knew it was a Fusion? Well, thanks for doing that for us, Bob. There you go. All digital modes eventually will creep in to transcoding. One at a time, though. All right, thanks, Bob, for the discussion concerning jitter. Any stations with well, I don't know about questions, but this is more of an overview of what's involved and what it means and understanding it. It's not just a term of what happens if you drink too much coffee. Anyone wish to comment on the jitter? Or anyone with jitters who wishes to comment? Please key up.
W6KD.
W6KD. Go ahead.
And I'm back on my D-Star radio now, because it's an HT. Anyway, related to the topic, hold on just a second, I got a cough. Sorry, anyway, related to the topic, jitter is one form of degradation that can happen with iffy processing of your stream somewhere along the internet or somewhere along the data path, and that could be your Wi-Fi connection from your hotspot to your router. It could be the cellular connection from your hotspot to the cellular system, or it could be anywhere along the way downstream. But when we talk about transcoding, the way we're doing it in our in the transcoding reflector is we actually take the stream apart and then and then we rebuild it again in the other format. So if we get it in D-Star, the AMBI format, we take it down to PCM audio in hardware and then re-encode it in AMBI plus 2, which is the DMR format, and shoot it out on the DMR side. Well, if you have a stream that has a problematic stream that has a lot of missing data or corrupt data in it, it's double trouble because the bad data comes into the decoder, and that causes something. If it were just a regular radio, you would hear it as R2D2, but then that gets turned around and re-encoded again, and so what you end up with is double processing of bad data, and it causes more trouble than just regular dropouts on a simple non-transcoded channel. And we put this in the documentation that we've started to build on the transcoders. That there's something of an imperative to do the best you can to make sure that your stream is clean, that you don't have that you're not using Wi-Fi in an environment where a lot of your packets are getting knocked out because there's a kabillion other people on the same Wi-Fi channel. It might be even you with your other devices knocking yourself out on the Wi-Fi channel, or if you're in a spotty coverage area on a repeater, or if you're in if you're in a spotty site for cellular data, for example. So just be aware that when those sorts of problems start occurring, it presents a little bit more of a problem through the backside of the transcoder, just because of the mechanics of it. It's getting decoded, processed, and recoded again, and if it was, it's the classic garbage in, garbage out, except it's garbage in, processed, and then even worse, garbage out. So the idea to keep your data stream as reliable as possible is more important when you're in particular DMR user on the other side of the transcoder. So with that, back to the net, W6KD.
All right, Bob, thank you. Anyone who wishes to comment or wishes to, contribute to this topic, please key up. All right, nothing seen or heard. At this point, we're going to open up the roundtable for questions of any nature, of course, concerning the purpose of this net. Although, we may have a few doctors in the house that might be able to answer medical questions, but that aside, questions that you may have of a technical nature that could be related to, but don't have to be on topic. It could be just a question that came up in your mind and you'd like to get it answered. That's fine, as well as any topics or discussions you think would be appropriate either now or on another roundtable. We'll take that as well. So stations, please key up. All right, nothing seen or heard. So it may be that we're nearing the conclusion of this Thursday's roundtable, but I just want to make sure that we've cleared the decks of stations who may have business for or traffic to relay during the net. And during this open segment, it's pretty much open. Again, we don't want to hear about the weather, but we would like to hear about D-Star, DMR, and digital mode questions or technical comments And if there's something that we should keep our eye on that you bumped into, we're happy to do so. If you have a topic in mind, you can either post it on the shout box or you can email me directly in 6hkh@me.com, and or however you want to get a hold of me. And we'll certainly work it up if it sounds like a good one. But it's been pretty congested and dense. Not congested, that's not a fair word, but we've covered a lot of turf and much of it in depth. And maybe it just takes time to digest. But the point is that I have no stations to call on. So, let's see if there's anything else out there before we close the roundtable. We're not there yet, but stations, please key up. Well, we've been running about just short of 2.5 hours, and we're certainly good for longer than that, but I don't have any other topics scheduled for tonight, at least not ones that wouldn't take up much time. So, given the lack of response, which is understandable, and given that there's a lot of information still to be looked at, I would strongly recommend you read up on the 4-key transcoding on the Roundtable Forum board and the post. And I really appreciate the amount of time that both John K6KD and Bob W6KD put into making presentations for the net. It would be cool if we had other stations that would key up. Well, we had information from W4WWN, but if there's a topic or a issue or something related to the purpose of us being here every Thursday night that you'd like to present, we're happy to take it. And it actually would be kind of cool to get presentations by other stations. But given that the nature of the topics, or at least one of them tonight, I understand that, the onus is on us. So with that, I want to thank all the stations that participated, because without your participation, there would be no roundtable. So at the end of pretty quick, probably about 50 minutes from now, the shout box will be cleaned up and copied in total and moved over to the shout box history. The podcast is usually available by Friday. That is tomorrow, at least for me, by noon at the latest, but usually it's available much sooner. And be sure to keep an ear out for the other nets that appear here on the Kings of Digital system, both Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain for the 100 watts on a wire net, as well as Saturdays, again at 6 p.m. Mountain. That's the D-Star Users Group, both hosted by Jeff VE6VV. They are worth your listen. So, I'm done, and I can't think of anything more to mention at this point other than I hope everyone has a great weekend and stays safe, but participates in D-Star and of course, feel free to come back here, the constellation of X-Reflectors, anytime you like, especially if your local reflector just isn't hopping, because there's always someone here. To be fair, there are sleep hours, but we welcome your visitation and key up, and if you want to play with the multi-protocol reflector or our dual protocol XLX reflector 313 and 212, feel free to do so. They're there to play with, and if you're having any difficulty or you have any questions, we're not prepared to give you a blow-by-blow of how to assemble a hotspot, although there are plenty of reference articles in the forum board about how to do that. We're happy to answer questions to get people up and running on it, and check out the dashboard. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, enough from me. I got to take a break, And we'll likely be back there a little bit later, and certainly over the weekend, and, well, tomorrow, Friday for me. Everyone, have a great time, and we'll talk to you soon on D-Star N6HKH. Good night. Anybody out there familiar with the ID-51?
The quick bridge into with Fusion. I know a way to use it, but of course I got to go back to my Brand Master server and use it. But you sound like you got something else going. W.